really like the theme of what we're doing here. And value, of course, is something that's, with our economy and what's going on, it's so important to everybody. But I really like the twist of what we're talking about here because value doesn't mean it has to be the cheap. Value to me means, into this conversation we're going to have today. Arla Foods is one of our newest sponsors. They're a dairy cooperative, and I think, Kevin, if I'm right, you're the fourth largest in the world.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah,
right, Kev.
which is pretty darn cool. And
Yeah,
you're out of Denmark, right?
we are. That's right. Yeah.
Based, and U.S. base is in Jersey.
Yeah, we're in New Jersey, and then we have a production site in Hollandtown, Wisconsin. So the
Yes,
heart of cheese making here in the
exactly.
U.S.
And that's how we met you guys too, is through, the dairy farmers of Wisconsin.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, who've been a great partner of ours since the beginning, for more than 20 years. And so here, of course, being in Spain, first thing we did going to the grocery stores, we're in Airbnb for a month, right? So it's kind of cool. So you go out to the stores and your cheeses are definitely here. Let's just say
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah,
And then, we have Kendra Keenan. She's the director of marketing for Datassential. She's going to be doing her talk about, what consumers are looking at, especially when it comes to value, and also talking about cheese and what preferences and what they're doing with that. So looking forward to that.
yeah. Thanks so much, Kev, and thank you everybody for the time today. At Arla Foods, we do like to talk about what we do because we're super proud of the company that we work for, and I hope that my my energy and excitement comes off throughout the presentation, and you guys are as excited as I am at the end here. So, without further ado, just jumping right into it. Kev already mentioned it, but Arla Foods is the fourth largest dairy co-op in the world, and a co-op means that you are owned by a network of members, and for us, that's our dairy farmers. So we are 100% dairy owned. It's around 10,000 dairy farmers in Europe actually have a stake in the Arla brand, and they own the Arla business. And because of that, and to be the fourth largest dairy co-op, you need to produce a lot of milk. So having those 10,000 dairy farmers with their 30 to 100 heads of cow on each farm, we produce a bunch of milk. So around 4 billion gallons of milk annually. It's just a crazy number to think about, but all of that is produced and produced into products. That it could be liquid milk in Europe, yogurt, those types of things, as well as ice cream and cheese, butter, and other dairy products that stem from that. As you get further and further away from where the milk is sourced, we produce those items that have a little bit longer shelf life. So for our conversation today, it's a lot of talk about cheese and cream cheese, and that's how we're able to as a large global company sell to over 153 countries worldwide. We're a very, very large company in terms of revenue, so doing just over 15 billion euros annually. And we have around 28,000 colleagues across the entire globe. So these colleagues could be, the dairy farmers, the producers of cheese in our plants and factories, but also, all of the logistics components and brand teams and sales teams across the entire world. And the brands that they really focus on and that we focus on are, and we're going to touch on today, are Castello, the Arla brand. For us here in food service, Arla Pro, Puck, Lurpak, and Kokio. We'll get into each one of these, but all of those brands have a portfolio of either cheese, cream cheese. Puck is a Middle Eastern brand. They're the largest Middle Eastern dairy brand in the world. So they do a lot of very ethnic dairy products. And then Lurpak is one of the largest butter brands in the world. So I know us here, we know another brand from Europe, but when you're in Europe and you're around the rest of the world, Lurpak. And then last but not least is Kokio. So it's a very classic, clean label chocolate milk that has a ton of legacy in the Nordic countries of Europe. So we'll touch on that a bit later too. But before we do that, That global scale. So we are global. We are a true global company, but a lot of our, facilities that produce fresh milk and cheese and everything like that are mostly in those Nordic countries. So you can see it's Denmark, Sweden, Finland, but also we do have production sites in Holland and Germany and in the UK as well. And then all the way down there in the bottom left there, you can see that's Canada and the US. So I mentioned our plant in Hollandtown, Wisconsin. That's that number 60 yellow that we're super proud of here in the US. So yeah, it's, we like to say that it's, more of a local on a global scale. So all of these dairies are available to us and the products that they produce, and it's just about what the market delivers and drives from a demand standpoint. And that's our, route to market and how we bring products in. So from a Arla, brand vision and company vision, we really believe about creating the future of dairy and how that's bringing health and inspiration to the world. And it seems kind of lofty, but when you are the fourth largest dairy company in the entire world, dairy products are known as being nutritious, right? So for us, the key differentiator is that we want to do this all naturally. So really staying away from minimally processed products, very limited to no preservatives, colors, things like that. So for us, it's all about those better for you needs. And when we look at that, it's not just the products that we produce; it's also the entire supply chain, and how that provides traceability from top to bottom. Which I have a slide. The next slide will go through that. But we have a program here at Arla called Arla Garden, and it really is our traceability program. So we're just looking to ensure that milk is the highest quality and it's produced responsibly. And we do it by controlling the product from cow to consumer. So that's milk consumption and composition. It's food safety throughout the entire supply chain process, from dairy all the way to customer. It's also animal welfare. So how we treat our animals, how we take care of our animals, from a animal welfare perspective, but also from a production perspective. So what is their throughput and how much milk are they able to produce? And then lastly, our environmental consideration. So again, we are such a large company that we do have a large environmental footprint. And it's kind of silly to think of this, but one of our biggest environmental footprints is actually our cows. It's no surprise, cows fart, and when they fart, they release methane gas into the globe. So we are really trying to combat that, and in some case actually capture that and reuse it into heating the barns and things like that. So there's a lot of really great things that Arla Garden, our program, outside of just traceability, helps us move forward. And being a farmer-owned company, there is that focus. So we like to say farm to fridge, right? And that's what we are as a company. And that means the traceability and transparency is super clear. So you can see at the bottom there's the graph. We have the owner farmers. These are independent farmer owners. These are family-owned dairies. These are not factory dairies by any means. A lot of cases, these are generational farms that have been passed down through the family for years. They are the owners of Arla. And they produce and keep up all of their heads of cow on these farms. And with that, we also have a whole fleet in Europe of inbound trucks that go around to each one of these dairies on a daily basis, weekly basis, and pick up all of that fresh milk. And then they bring it to one of the local processing production facilities. So that list that we saw on the map, the slide prior, there is some administration and commercialization stuff that goes on. So us, marketing guys and logistics teams around the world are, trying to figure out what's that next product that's really gonna kick. What's the new flavor that we can launch that really is going to stand out in the marketplace. And then there's outbound. So we either own our transportation to the customer in some cases, or we have very, very large global contracts because we are shipping dairy products around the entire world. So we own those outbound relationships all the way down to the customer level. So in a lot of cases here in the U.S., it's direct to customer, or or selling it through a distributor. And then last but not least, more for the retail side of things, then it's delivering the product to the consumer. But all through that entire supply chain, we're looking at milk composition, all the way on the left. So that's high quality milk that, is free from added hormones. So we're never using hormones in our cows to produce more milk per head. Animal welfare kind of ties right into that, where we have really, really strict standards for our cows' health, comfort, well-being, having the space and grazing for them allowed to graze and have that room to live, as well as produce milk. And a lot, we like to say a happy cow produces more milk. So that's a really good thing. Food safety. So from the dairy all the way back to the farm, our practices that we have put in place protect quality. So because we're all under one roof and we're not buying from individual farmers, all of these practices are put throughout all 10,000 dairy farmers that we have. It's every plant and operations facility that we own. Food safety is the first thing that comes to mind across all of those locations. And then I touched on this a bit, but that environmental consideration. So if it's recyclable packaging in Europe, or it's trying to recapture some of that methane that the cows are producing and use it for fuel and in the winter months for energy, we're always looking to put a positive environmental impact. So that's also one of the top drivers for us in our drive to deliver the Arla Garden program. So now, what we like to talk about here in the U.S. is cheese. So we have an amazing portfolio, and it really does start as with a culinary need. So we have both imported and domestic products here in the U.S. So we're importing from Europe, but we're also producing out of our plant in Wisconsin. And we like to say that our imported products are authentically Danish. So this falls under the brands Castello, Kokio, and Lurpak. These are top brands in Europe and in Denmark, and in the U.S. they also have a big footprint as well. And then Kev, you mentioned it. We have our Proudly Wisconsin items as well. So these are the items that are made in Wisconsin. We work with, I think, 21 dairy farmers in Wisconsin that are acknowledged as Arla dairy farmers, and they supply our Hollandtown plant. And we produce Arla Pro and then Defino, which is our bulk loaf food service items. We are the market leader in Havarti. We're the #1 imported blue cheese in the United States, and we're the #2 Gouda in the United States. Outside of those 3 cheese types, we do have others that we're darn proud of. One of them being cream cheese, and we'll touch on that in a little bit. And then that chocolate milk, so touched on that as well. We, each year our plants are super proud of entering cheese competitions, and we come home with a bunch of awards every year. So you can see from the World Cheese Championships all the way to the LA Food Championships and the International Food Contests, as well as Product of the Year, which we won in 2025. And then last but not least, from a format perspective, we have both exact weight and random weight offerings. So really filling the format need for the culinary usage. All right, so jumping into Arla Pro slices a bit, just double clicking in. So our Arla Pro brand is really focused for food service operators and users. So these are 0.75 ounce slices. They're packed 32 counts to a package. So there's not much waste there. You're gonna utilize it and then open a new fresh pack. These are all produced in Wisconsin. And, they all are, again, free from added hormones and any other, artificial colors or preservatives or anything like that. This is truly natural specialty cheese. And they're also very approachable flavors, right? It's not anything that's so far out there, but, it's still upscale from the standard, cheese types that we know, cheddar, mozzarella, that type of thing. So there's a really good way to kind of elevate menus, all the while, not having to buy a full block of cheese and have to slice it down with all of that labor cost associated to it. Yeah, great for sandwiches. If you guys have had Havarti before, you know that it melts really, really well. So awesome on cheeseburgers and hot flatbreads and things like that. But again, also all super delicious and very approachable. This is one we're especially proud of. So it's called Burger Blue Cheese. It's one of the only sliced blue cheeses in the entire world. There are others that are blue cheese Monterey blends, that type of thing. This is Dana blue cheese, imported from Denmark, and it's sliced into an 8.7 slice, and it comes 22 slices to a pack. And it has exceptional flavor. So if you've ever had Dana Blue, it has a nice creamy flavor, but it's not overpowering like a Gorgonzola. It melts exceptional, has a really high butter fat, so it does really well melting on top of a burger. But we've also seen really great usage on steak sandwiches, topped on steaks, also used in salads, buffalo chicken sandwiches, that type of thing. So while the name is called Burger Blue, it definitely has usage beyond just burgers. What we see and what a lot of our operators utilize the Burger Blue for is that labor time saving. So, compared to the crumbled blue cheese, there's that waste or shrink or just not the uniform portion size that the team is, as they're building the sandwich or building the burger. This gives you that consistent weight every single time with very, very limited shrink, very limited waste. And then in a lot of cases, extremely elevated flavor over those other domestic players. So something we're really, really proud of. Jumping right into a Danish classic. So this is our Kokio Classic Chocolate Milk. It's one of the only 3-ingredient chocolate milks produced in the world and sold, at a large clip. It is imported from Denmark. This product is in a really, really approachable slim can, packed 12 to a case. And it's a product that has been around Denmark since 1951. And in Europe, it's also a modern staple. So you hear a lot of people that have either spent time in Germany or something like that. It's a Kokio and a hot dog, on your way home. And that's really what it's known for. We really love it because it plays into that clean label. And we know that clean label has really taken off over the past couple of years here in the US. There's no artificial sweeteners or flavors or colors or anything like that. It truly is just chocolate, milk, and sugar. That's it. And because of that, because it's clean label, it really does well in menu integration. So whether that's blending it into a shake or making a smoothie or a frap or something like that, all the way down to, brunch cocktails or, late night cocktails, like a chocolate espresso martini, that type of thing. It also really works great as well as turning it into mousse or some of those house-made desserts. So again, really great item and a great product to try if you've never had it. And then one of the last ones here before we, I think, do some Q&A is our imported cream cheese. So this is right now we have our imported cream cheese available in an individual portion pack. So these are 1.8 ounce sizes. They're a little bit bigger than two times the size of the leading competition out there. And it's closer to a bagel cream cheese serving. So really the benefit of this product is because it's a little bit bigger, and because a lot of these are giveaway, you only have to give 1 cup, out with a single bagel, versus the competition. It's usually 2, maybe 3 cups to get that full serving on a bagel. Very, very priced efficiently, against some of the domestic competition. And again, that's something that we benefit from, being such a large company, and being one of the number one producers of cream cheese in the world. So we see those benefits here in the U.S. It also is clean label, which is very interesting. And I'm not sure if you've ever looked at the label of cream cheese, but there's a lot of weird stuff in there. Gums and preservatives and stabilizers, to give it that taste and texture. Our cream cheese has none of it. It's just cream, milk, salt, and cheese cultures. That's it, 4 ingredients. And it is one of the creamiest cream cheeses you will ever have. And the taste is out of this world. It's super clean, really, really fresh. And it's a great, great product. So we have it available, like I said, in those 1.8 ounce single serve, but we also are launching a 35-pound block. It's a block and bag case coming up in a few months. So, really, really excited to see this product hit the market, and see what the, guest experience looks like. So, and then the last slide. So this is just kind of highlighting, how our cream cheese versus the competitor. Like I said, it all comes down to cost, right? So the way that we have it priced, we are priced super competitive, and on a per bagel serving, 1 Castello cream cheese versus the 2 competitors, on average, there's a 48-cent savings per bagel to the operator. It's huge. On top of that, you can also tout the clean label that I talked about before. So really, really exciting product for us next year. And that is really all I had. So
Mention a little bit more about co-ops, and I want to know, for me personally, because I understand the co-op, game, but
yeah,
is there a difference in co-ops in Europe than there is in the United States, or are
the
they
idea,
structured similar?
yes. So the idea of co-ops is not different, right? It's an entity, an organization owned by the group, right? The total. There are a few co-ops here in the U.S., but in Europe, it also there's a lot of dairy companies out there, right? And I think the one thing that we really see as a differentiator for us is the fact that we're owned by over 10,000 farmers. So for them, it's less about the short-term growth, right? Don't get me wrong, they still want that, but they really are focused on what's the sustainable long-term growth of our company. So when we do things, and when we move into new ventures and things, this is not just a flash in the pan. This is something that our farmers want to see, that sustainable business, and because of that, it makes us really strong, and it's kept us really competitive in the market.
That's awesome. I've got some more questions. I'm going to hold that till after Kendra's, though, because I'm sure
Cool.
he's going to
Yeah,
hit on some of this as well. So let's go into your presentation, then we'll come back, and we have some other members and other people that are going to join us for the Q&A after that.
But I'm super excited to talk about value equation today. It really ties in with a lot of the specialty premium ingredients that Kevin with Arla just covered. And so before I dive into the findings, I just want to kind of give a little bit of a maybe intro to those maybe who aren't familiar with Datassential. I know we've been on these webinars, probably see us at events. We cover a lot of different data, so just want to mainly highlight. We'll be diving into more like menu consumer data today, but we do everything from chain benchmarking, and we even have social media data now. You probably won't see that here, to everything like MCP connectors for your AI tools like Claude or ChatGPT. We know AI is hot, so I just want to kind of give a quick shout out to there, and really just kind of give an underlying foundation of the type of data we have, which is what's going to feed into this research I'm about to share. Basically what consumers want and when, and now I'll kind of jump into what this value equation means and how it's impacting the industry. Kind of set the tone, just want to get a full macro picture of kind of where consumers are at today. And what kind of this slide shows, they're under a lot of economic pressure. Nearly 3/4, 71%, are concerned about inflation, a rising cost of living. That's no shock there. 60% are worried about the long-term affordability, and almost half are say they just try to make ends meet every day. And so we know that all plays into a constraint when it comes to sometimes maybe purchase decisions. But what's critical is that this economic anxiety has really pushed value more towards the center of a dining decision. And previously, we know taste has always been the traditional king of menu decisions, but we see value creeping up and becoming closer to that as a decision driver. And so we know, yeah, ranks number 2, and then not far behind that, but also kind of a further spread apart is service. So that's still very much an important food service operational decision. And this is just kind of important framework because it shows that the consumer is reassessing kind of what value means in terms of importance. So in fact, over half of consumers have actually changed their perception of value in the past 6 months alone. And this data matters because it means value perceptions aren't sticky and they're evolving in response to aforementioned economic pressure. And consumers are just actively evaluating what they're willing to pay for, what they demand, and essentially what trade-offs that they're willing to make in this pricing versus value decision. And so jumping into kind of the top rising levers for value decisions, we know consumers are what are they prioritizing in this definition? We asked, and 6 out of the top 8 importance drivers are actually things that operators can control in the kitchen. The first 2 are consistency and freshness, both at 67%. And this essentially is just knowing what you're going to get, and then food that is made to order. Next, we have bundles and meal deals at 66%. And this is just kind of the idea of you're getting a complete meal and not just a one item. And so consumers really looking for that different value bundling. And then next, with order and accuracy and portion size at 64%, this is just, are you getting consistently what you asked for? And maybe do you have enough leftovers to feel like you had a full meal, or just truly feeling full after you ate the meal? And then I wanted to highlight this 6th one, which is the low base price. And this is important because it's not first as an importance driver. And so this is where kind of the price enters that value equation. So it matters, but it's just not maybe the first and foremost. And so behind service, I wanted to highlight premium ingredients and ingredient transparency because that comes into today's conversation. While you see those at 51 and 50%, while maybe it's not as high as that 67%, it's still very important to the conversation because that's still at least half of consumers. And so that's a lot of consumers that place emphasis on premium ingredients and ingredient transparency as an important purchase driver decision. And really, the reason I want to highlight is because all of these can be decisions that you make within your operation, and it's not just solely based on price. And so going into that discussion, we want to talk a little bit about premium. We know it's growing. A third of the consumers are seeking this more than 1 year ago. So this has changed more than a year ago. The consumers want unique, experiential, premium dining experiences. And again, this is against the universal price cutting, and then premium demand is being concentrated, so not out of the equation. When we look at that breakdown of consumers, we know that younger generations are actively pursuing premium experiences. Millennials have 46, so they are at the top, shortly followed by Gen Z, and then we have Gen X, and followed by boomers. And we know that this one is critical because it's a big in the conversation when it comes to the specialty cheese conversations and premium. Maybe you've seen some of our webinars where we talked about a polarized K-shaped economy. But this is where kind of in both different directions, consumers are seeking value in one direction and then seeking premium happening simultaneously, but this happens kind of in different consumer segments. And the big takeaway from this is really, you just don't have to choose between value and offering premium, that both can live in a world where you're offering these to the consumers and meeting them where they're at and positioning it accordingly. And so, especially for millennial and Gen Z who are seeking these are your biggest growth areas and growth targets. So premium will work when it's positioned in the right value frame. So let's talk about value frame. So when we asked food service visitors what they most wanted to change to provide good value, or most wanted from operators to change to provide good value, outside of price, because we know price is going to be on number one, but the second most is improved quality ingredients and fresh ingredients followed by that. And so this is big because consumers are actively seeking premium experiences that are defined by freshness, quality, and not just all about price. And then these are the quality buyers that are really seeking that. We asked what's increased in importance, so kind of calling out some more of those stats that I presented previously, but 67%. I just want to kind of emphasize that more than half are seeking made-to-order execution and then the premium ingredients. And these are just really to highlight the fact that quality-focused levers are the ones gaining importance. And so the consumers who are paying for premium want it to be positioned and have it deliver more value. And this can be through using language like quality, freshness, clean label, and overall thoughtful sourcing. And it's not just about price, but bringing in those value justifies having it all together. And so here's how quality can be framed in this way. To kind of lean into that quality story, wanted to kind of give a data point for anyone seeking or selling specialty items, which is when consumers are presented with cost pressures, we asked, what would you rather have? We have almost half say they prefer the same portion size as a slightly higher price. Quality and fullness mattered more than keeping that price flat. And then only 18%, so less than 1 in 5, said they would accept lower quality ingredients to save money. And this means consumers will actively take some quality cuts as a path, will reject quality cuts as a path to affordability. So they don't want to sacrifice on quality. And so this really kind of leans into structure for specialty cheese that be sure to protect your quality messaging and positioning, and consumers will be the one to kind of decide that choice, as long as kind of the narrative matches up between we're sourcing better, delivering fresher, and it might cost a little more, but in their minds, it'll be worth it. And so kind of that better product, better cheese, better taste delivers the better value, and that's what they want. So now jumping in, Noah kind of maybe cover all of the super awesome products presented, but just kind of choose out 4 cheese categories to go into a little bit deeper with some of the consumer and menu data, mainly because each of these serve a different value role on the menu, and understanding these distinctions really helps for menu placement and positioning. First, with Havarti, we know 30% love or like it, so fairly like familiar cheese, and 2% of total US menus. While we see that being as underpenetrated here, that only shows it's a lot of room for opportunity. And where we've seen them most in the cuisine type is coffee and bakery and in the Midwest. And so leaning into those types of applications is going to be key. And then it's really something that's comfort driven. And so this is where it comes into saying accessible premium play. So it's really just something that's comfortable with a quality edge to it. With Gouda, we have 49% who love or like it. So that's pretty strong affinity of almost more than half consumers. 6.7% total US menu penetration. And this is most common in American cuisine and fine dining. And so you'll find this in a lot of like upscale and comfort settings, but it's kind of positioned more as a versatile premium and works across a lot of different concepts and different menu concepts. With blue cheese, 41% love or like it, and it's on 40% of total US menus, kind of one of the highest penetrations. And you'll see this more in steakhouses and fine dining, and more of the kind of signature premium type of use case. And this really leans into that experiential experience that consumers are looking for, like the Gen Z and millennials. And then lastly, we have cream cheese for 79% love or like it. And this is definitely the highest affinity. Almost 29% are on US menus, and it's as we would expect, mostly in coffee and bakery and mid-scale. And I did want to highlight that for being a pretty near universally familiar item, there's still a lot of room to grow. And so it's had a 4-year historic growth. And while like 6% may not seem like a lot, for something as ubiquitous, for those maybe who are familiar with our menu adoption cycle, that's kind of as you move through a trend life cycle on menus. That's pretty darn impressive for something to still have growth potential, for being so familiar. And so this definitely is a great area to lean into, especially with a clean label play. And so when building the story for each, we just wanted to kind of also lean into the fact that we know freshness and familiar brands will typically outperform novelty as premium cheese cues. And so knowing where that category leadership matters is very helpful. And just to kind of put some numbers behind it, we know that 45% of consumers are more likely to buy a trusted cheese brand and not just to pay more. So all of these examples are great to kind of have from the menu consumer's perspective. And now we're going to jump into some examples of them in the real world. For those who aren't familiar maybe with our launches and rating data, this is where we pull like real-time, limited time offer and menu launch data and bring it to a platform and score it based on kind of where consumers are indexing. And so this essentially will show like where is it showing up on menus and which are the highest performers. So pulled one for each of the cheese categories that are proven performers. So starting off with Gouda, we have this Crave and Save combo special meal. So before those key important decision drivers, bundled meals, this is where this really plays in to have a very distinctive cheese with an accessible price in a meal deal. And so having this like Gouda's versatility can really shine in an affordable context. Kind of same plays with Havarti, having it in a sandwich as a cheese slice and having it be more of a quality, approachable price execution. Like Gouda, very high index high for millennials. And both of these I kind of wanted to call out of the burger concept. I know, Kevin, you had showed the kind of burger slices in some of your examples. Burgers are a great play for experimentation. They're familiar, they're well loved. This is definitely where you'd want to be able to insert some of these cheese slices in play, and then ties into the blue cheese. Did not know there were blue cheese slices out there, so that'll definitely play into adding them into burgers as well. But definitely more skews with fine dining. So kind of breaking down where you would see maybe blue cheese most and has room to play around with. It's also kind of known for being helpful and distinctive. And this one in particular can be positioned as like special and a premium type of healthy. Last but not least, we have cinnamon rolls using cream cheese. So this is kind of a out of the box application, maybe where you wouldn't necessarily always theme cream cheese. Like I mentioned before with the top cuisine is going to be coffee and bakery. How you normally think about it is on a bagel spread, perhaps. So this kind of offers a different way of thinking, high scoring item, especially with Gen Z, adding a familiar favorite, super craveable, and just thinking of a out of the box way to include cream cheese and maybe something like a dessert. So all of these kind of how you would value frame it from a meal deal to maybe how you'd elevate your brand is how you would win with consumers in this situation and keeping it with familiar and dependable ingredients. So in summary, we have the kind of the value conversation key points with the menus. One, lead with the freshness and quality cues, and the made to order framing. So this is kind of what earns the premium price and not just novelty alone. So let's say you're introducing Havarti or Gouda. You want to lead with how it's sourced, how it's prepared, how it tastes fresh. And so these value signals, kind of like fresh, creamy Havarti, will be a great execution play for quality and then help kind of drive that money well spent value. Second is building on brand and menu trust. Those familiar, dependable ingredients, like cream cheese being almost 80% affinity. Everyone knows it, everyone loves it. You're not asking them to trust a brand new ingredient. You're just asking them to see it in this elevated way. next, we have match the ingredient to the occasion. So kind of breaking down each of the dining experiences, making sure that those broader appeal ingredients, like cream cheese, work in volume and in the meal deal context. And then your fine dining ingredients like blue cheese can go into premium applications, or maybe like a growth category like Havarti for kind of quality forward. So they each have their own place and context that you can position them in. And last but not least, kind of that operations piece I mentioned, we know for kind of a top operator pain point is going to be shelf life and consistent freshness. So it's really just highlighting that these special premium ingredients is where quality is going to be crucial. And so making sure that leaning into that messaging is key. So just kind of leave with one kind of tie in of today's conversation, just value isn't the opposite of premium, making sure that they're both kind of, it's earned through it and they both can work together through these freshness, familiarity, and making sure we match the occasion. So this can be everything from QSR to coffee shops, kind of delivering on value for that exceptional guest experience. And kind of we know those specialty ingredients with each of these cheeses have proof of it. And if you really loved all of this data, it's actually perfect timing. We have a Simply Smarter webinar series around this data value where we'll be digging into a lot more insights than what I covered today. And so if you'd like to join, just wanted to give a plug to go onto our website and check it out afterwards. And if you have any questions, reach out to the team. And thanks so much for having me today. And here's a little slide on Datassential.
Thanks so much. That is really good. There's a couple of things you just said, Kendra. It was really kind of surprising to me that 79% love or like cream cheese. That's like crazy, isn't it?
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what's there not to like, right?
Yeah. No, that's really, yeah. So
well, I think
Melanie
it was pretty
Ox is with
impressive
us
with that
now.
list.
Good.
I think that was really impressive with that. A 6% lift on that type of base is incredible, is a huge number.
Yeah. And I like the other ones too. I'm looking at Havarti and looking at the Gouda, or if you want to say it in the world I'm in right now, Gouda. It would be right. But it's like seeing the potential there was really good too, because it's like seeing that people love it, but it's really not menued as much as it maybe should be right now. Was kind of impressive. So I don't know, Mark, Daryl, Melanie, you guys want to chime in on some questions you may have had or thoughts you have on what you just heard?
Yeah, one thing I was just going to say was I love, Kendra, that you went into it's more than just about price for value, right? It's who's the demo, what's the maturity even of your brand, right? If you're generally a QSR that's known for maybe lower cost options, then maybe that price makes is a bit more important to the consumer than some of those others. But yeah, I mean, I think it just reiterates, I think, something that we are always talking about within our organizations is having that balance of value being in price and those premium ingredients and branded ingredients and how often do you use them and all of those kinds of things. So thank you for that. And then the other thing, Kevin, I just wanted to say, blue cheese slices. I mean, I'm running out to get those. That sounds amazing. So awesome. Welcome to the organizations. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well.
Yeah, pleasure to meet y'all and look forward to seeing you at some of the upcoming events. And I think that there was some interesting points that y'all made as well. And we always have that discussion of the balance between price and value and understanding, there's two different things. One is certainly trying to protect price and being cognizant of the effective price on our consumer base, because even though they may give us high value marks at a lot of different at different price points, I mean, we're a buffet. We provide a lot of, abundance. Abundance is intrinsic to to what our offer is, and with that is, value in terms of you have, a lot of different array of options. You have a variety of things you can choose from: proteins, salad bars, soups, what have you. We still have to understand where price comes into that and the sensitivity of price at different levels of the demographic. For instance, I mean, we know that some of our consumer base, may come to see us several times a week. We have a high repeat visit, high part of the population that does a lot of repeat visits with us. That means that, they can be particularly sensitive to price, and particularly sensitive to price when we see things like, climbing costs of things like gas, where we've seen a relationship between the two. So I thought it was a great opportunity to really, highlight that piece of, continuing to understand what the value delivery is, not just chasing price, and understanding, how the consumer is reacting to several different elements of that in this part of the economy. So thanks.
Awesome. Mark?
Yeah, I wanted to reiterate what Melanie said. Those blue cheese slices looked amazing. Being a burger chain, we're always looking for, new innovative, cheese toppings. Do you guys have plans for different slices, different varieties, kind of in the future as well?
Yeah, we do. It's definitely something that we're looking into, and I think, with Kendra and the Datassentials team, they've really helped us with identifying what some of those are. You saw in Kendra's data that while Gouda has high awareness, it may not be so much, shown up on menus. And right now we do have a Gouda slice, but it's just unflavored. We know that from the data, it's showing that smoked Gouda is really the thing that's trending. So that's something, not trying to say it's coming soon, but keep your eye out for that. So smoked Gouda is something we're looking into.
Yeah, okay. This shameful plug from one Kevin to another. So this is what our local store, literally, it is
Nice.
like half a block up from us has, I wish we had the blue here too.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of the other things I think that came up that were really interesting for me was, looking at the premium, side of this and what people were looking for. And it's really interesting that it's kind of across, Kendra, maybe this is a question for you. It's kind of across all different segments, right? All different age groups, that people are looking now at, hey, if I'm going out, right? I know that it's precious dollars I'm spending, tonight to go out to dinner, or today for lunch, or whatever it is. And they're looking at, what am I getting for my money, right? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think kind of maybe one area that wasn't we didn't dig into as much was just consumers will also definitely know when it's not a quality ingredient. They're definitely, if you kind of forego that, it's not I think maybe before people they won't notice, you can just short on it. And so I think that's kind of one big piece that's kind of what the data reiterates, is that definitely they're willing to pay more money. And so it's just kind of maybe positioning it in that way. And so while you're going to have obviously the more foodie age consumers like millennials and Gen Z who will lean towards that, that's not to say Gen X and boomers are out. I think you just got to play it in the right positioning. And so I know blue cheese, I don't give demographic, but skews high with boomers. And so being able to position that of blue cheese slices inside a burger, that could be a great segue to have to appeal to a specific demographic.
Yeah, and I was gonna, I think what Daryl you touched on earlier, value at your location truly hits home at price. And what we've seen is that some folks, in more of those staple menu offerings, they're not necessarily changing that so much as they're adding an additional offering. So a big thing that we're seeing on menus is the premium upgrade. So it could be, hey, you could have it the same way we always serve it, but then for $1 more, $2 more, you could swap out that American cheese with a smoked Gouda or a Havarti slice or something like that. So that's something that I think, being cognizant of who your consumer is, who your guest is, but then also trying to hit more of those millennials, like you were saying, Kendra, that maybe has a little bit different of a flavor profile.
Yeah, I've got a question for our members that are on this. When it comes to branding on your menu, do you see this growing more in the future, to put branded names on your menu, or is it kind of, do you think it's stagnant? Do you think it's more important as we move along, especially in the climate we're in today?
I was just going to say, I think so. When I was at Insomnia, when I first started there, they weren't doing any branding. And then just over the 5 years that I was there, we just showed that it was pretty simple, right? That just a simple ingredient like a sandwich cookie versus an Oreo. Just what is the difference in how it sells to the consumer? Are we selling the same amount? Are we selling it faster? All of those things. It's very easy to make those comparisons and determine if it works or if it doesn't. And then I do think there's a positive impact from the brand partnership, the brand that you're working with, the amount of social that they're willing to do for you as well. It's and it has to be a two-way street I think for it to work well or for it to be a benefit for both. And at least in that industry, it's kind of necessary.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. I mean, we're a buffet. I mean, we don't have a menu per se, but I do have, we do labeling and, signage on the buffets and all that. And we've done some limited branding. I think that works well, and I've done it, when I've been associated with other concepts as well. I'd say my biggest caveat on branding is often that you understanding that it's a good it seems obvious, a good combination of between what that brand is and what your brand is, and you always want whatever product you're bringing in that it's transformative in some way and carries that kind of premium note around it, or carries a brand positioning that you're transforming in some way on your restaurant. And when I think of that is you don't want to brand in a product that the consumer is going to look at and say, well, I could have just made that at home. But you want them to look at something that, okay, here's how I've transformed, this brand that's really central, and carries a quality connotation. But now we're doing something different and carrying that quality through to another quality exposition with a new dish on there. And I've found that works particularly well with a lot of dessert brands, or snack brands and things that I've done that in the past. So be that Oreo or Snickers or any of those. We've also had good success with some things. Hidden Valley Ranch, certainly carries a connotation of a lot of quality and a lot of brand history around ranch. That's worked well. So, but I do think it has to be transformative, not just taking a base product and applying it, but really plussing it up.
Very cool. Well, we're approaching the end of our conversation here with a little wrap up. But any last thoughts from any of you and all of you?
Just thank you guys for the warm welcome. It was really, really great. This is one of my first webinars, so very exciting. Nice to meet you guys.